Everyone thinks he is a weak, pathetic loser because he can only appraise items, but he gets trained by the strongest sage in the world.
A loser and lowly boy nicknamed the Garbage Collector ends up trapped by monsters intent on devouring him. He has no choice but to run away and commit, but he finds himself reaching the world tree that will change his life forever by giving him unparalleled power. Once upon a time, a young man named Ein committed suicide after realizing that he was a failure, useless, and worthless, and no one would care about his death. He remembered when he worked for a band of adventurers who treated him cruelly and called him a garbage collector because he was carrying a lot of luggage on his back. He fell down from fatigue after the end of his band's fight with a monster, and then got up again to do his job, which is to use the only ability he is good at, which is evaluating things and materials around him, which made him belong to the lowly commoner category in the social hierarchy. He then went to evaluate the monster after its death, and found it to be a D-ranked monster despite its C-ranked teeth. He had difficulty removing its front teeth and asked his party members to help open the monster's mouth. The adventurer Zoid and the witch Jolene refused to deal with the corpse, telling him that it was his job as a garbage collector, and when Ein was angered by their insult, Zoid kicked him because he didn't like the way he looked at him, and Jolene told him that they had put their lives on the line to ensure his safety, and he was obliged to show gratitude and respect to them. Frustrated and humiliated, Ein apologized to them, thinking that this world is not fair, and ended up extracting the monster's teeth without help, working while they laughed at him. Then found Zoid telling him that the reason he allowed him to join his squad was because he didn't want to carry the monster's bodies after killing them. Ein realized that he had no choice but to endure the suffering he was going through in order to survive in this world and follow them out of the maze. But suddenly they came across the corpse of a hunting dog, and while Ein wondered why such a beast was in the maze, Zoid ordered him to go and evaluate it immediately. Ein found that the dog belonged to rank B. While he was doing his job, Zoid was able to find the corpse of another dog, which made Ein worry that something was wrong, since the map they had indicated that there was only one passage in this area. Zoid shrugged it off as a simple mistake. When Ein suggested they retreat from the maze, Zoid told him to retreat on his own, but then he would have to leave his stuff here because he would be kicked out of his squad and he wouldn't get paid for today's mission. Ein felt he was in a bind because if he was kicked out, he would have a hard time joining another squad due to his useless skills, so he decided to continue traveling with them to keep his job. And along the way, they found dozens of dead bodies lying in front of them. Ein became increasingly worried and wondered who had defeated all those monsters. If they were as adventurous as they would have gathered their materials. Before he could finish speaking, several hounds appeared in front of them, and Ein realized that these bodies were the result of a battle between the pack. Feeling that their lives are at stake, Zoid decides to flee, shocking Ein when he realizes that he wants to use him as a scapegoat so that he can survive, and orders Jolene to attack him with a paralyzing spell so that he can't move. Ein fell to the ground and continued to tremble as Jolene told him that the effect of the spell didn't last long, and he might be able to escape if he was lucky. After they left, the dogs began to approach him until they pounced on him all at once and began to tear his body apart with their teeth. Ein felt his paralysis spell being canceled by the pain and was able to fight them off. He was forced to leave his belongings and flee as fast as he could, but he was shocked to see the road blocked by Zoid and Jolene and realized that they had deliberately trapped him here to die. He tried to find another way, but he found his end was a dark abyss, and he found himself choosing how to die, either by falling into the abyss or by letting the dogs eat him, and he chose the latter, thinking that death was inevitable since he was born with a pathetic ability. Ein accepted his fate and jumped into the abyss, blaming himself for accepting humiliation and submission to those above him because of his weakness and helplessness. After his fall, he found himself sitting in a forest-like place with a severe head injury. Then he felt someone approaching him and kissing his head, so he thought he might be dreaming, but when he opened his eyes, he found a blonde girl in front of him. Then he regained consciousness to find himself in front of a giant tree, and he was surprised that he was still alive despite his fall and that he had recovered from all his injuries. I noticed that the tree was dripping with drops of water, and when he evaluated the water, he was shocked that it was of level S, which is the same level as the tree. And then he realized that he was standing in front of the world tree that he had only heard about in legends, and its function is to give humans the magical energy that they use in their skills. I remembered that in his world, the world tree tree had withered and died a long time ago, yet humans still had magical energy, which prompted scientists to launch expeditions to find other trees that perform the same function. But they failed to find any tree, and Ein thought he had succeeded in finding one inside the maze and felt grateful that the tree had saved him from death. But he noticed that this place is quiet compared to the maze, and he doesn't sense any monsters. Remembering what his band members did to him, he thought that they won't ask anyone to help him and will forget about him, and decided to try to get out of the maze before he starves to death. As he heads towards the exit, he realizes that this area is not on the map, which means that it is a place not yet explored by adventurers, and he may face enemies more dangerous than hounds, and despite his fear, he has no choice but to continue on his way. He picked up a rock and headed out of the place, and while he was walking, he did not sense the presence of any monsters, so he felt relieved that he would be able to escape out of the maze effortlessly. But unfortunately, he was attacked by a monster carrying a weapon that caused him to lose his ear and a few fingers of his hand. Ein was surprised to find himself standing in front of an S-rank monster, stronger than even the hounds combined, and he was soon torn to pieces as the monster continued to attack him, and Ein tried his best to survive, but he couldn't get up. Before the beast could finish him off, he was crushed by another, stronger beast, and Ein found himself in front of a giant bear that blinded him with one blow. Then the bear picked him up and began to eat him, but a mysterious person appeared out of nowhere and took the bear's life, and expressed his resentment that he was forced to save a human at the request of his companion. Ein lost consciousness due to blood loss, and when he regained consciousness, one of his eyes had changed color, and he was surprised to find himself in front of the world tree again, healed from his injuries, and this time he found a blonde girl sitting in front of him and smiling at him. Ein was surprised when a person appeared out of nowhere next to him while he was admiring the girl's beauty. She told him that her daughter had made him this tea and he should drink it gratefully. When Ein wanted to know who they were, the suspicious woman took the tea and forced him to drink it. Ein liked the tea, which made the girl happy. As he continued to stare at her, her mother warned him that she would make him disappear if he had any perverted thoughts about her daughter. She told him that she didn't want to save a lowly being like him, but her daughter insisted, and that her name was Yuri, that she tells him to express his gratitude to her because she wouldn't have intervened without her request. And when he does, Yuri blushes, while her mother is furious, kicks him, and tells him not to call her daughter unofficially. Ein wonders if the woman in front of him is actually Yuri's mother. She tells him that he can think of her as her mother, introduces herself as Ursula, and tells him that she is the guardian of the world tree and her job is to make sure that the 9 trees of the world live in peace. Ein realizes that they've been living near this tree for a long time, and at first he thinks Yuri is human, but Ursula tells him that Yuri is the world tree itself and has been protecting it since it took root in this place, representing the tree's will. Ein realizes that this is the reason for her overwhelming beauty. Yuri blushes at his constant staring while Ursula beats him up and tells him that she didn't give him his sight back to use it in such a perverted way. Ein remembers that he lost his eye due to the bear attack and suffered fatal injuries before he was rescued. Ursula tells him that she treated him with drops from the world tree and had to use part of it to make him a prosthetic eye to replace the one he lost. Then she added that it was Yuri who asked her to help him regain his sight. He asked her why they were doing all this for him, and Yuri told him that she felt very happy when he first expressed his gratitude to her. Ursula tells him that hardly anyone can fall into this abyss, and Yuri rescues anyone who ends up here. But for the first time, she is thanked for what she does, and they get greedy when they realize it's a world tree and start cutting off the leaves and branches to profit from it. Ein expresses his gratitude again for saving him for the second time, and when he tells her that he considers her his savior, she almost faints with embarrassment, while Ursula kicks him out after he is able to move, and Yuri tries to convince her to stay with them for a while so that he won't be in danger. Yuri begged Ursula to help him in some way, but Ursula told her that since she was her guardian, she would only be able to stay a certain distance away from her, making her unable to escort him out. Yuri was saddened, and Ursula rushed over to comfort her and marveled that she cared so much about a trivial human, so she was forced to help him in some way to keep Yuri happy. Ursula decides to take on the responsibility of training Ein so that he can become self-reliant and survive the labyrinth. Ein feels hope flowing through him that he can get out of here alive on his own and rushes over to them, thanking them for helping him become strong and vowing to do his best. Afterward, he and Ursula were walking somewhere, and Ein wondered if she was going to throw him into a real battle. She replied that he would be old by the time he got out of the labyrinth if they started studying theoretically. Then she pointed to something in front of them, but all he could see was darkness. Ursula was furious and told him that he now had eyes made from the World Tree. He said he didn't feel any change, and Ursula told him it was because of his lack of perception. Ein remembered when his eye was crushed by the bear and felt like he was drowning in darkness. He credited Yuri with restoring his sight. When he opened his eyes again, he was surprised that he could see everything around him clearly, and Ursula told him that his training had begun. She then woke up the monster that had already attacked him and told him that he had to dodge its every move using his only skill. Ein told her that this skill only helps him get information about the classification of monsters and materials. When he used his magic eye to evaluate the monster, he found that he could recognize its movements and techniques, but before he could move, he ended up losing his ear again. Ursula set up a protective barrier around them and used World Tree drops to help him regain his ear, and told him that no matter how many injuries he suffered during the training, she would be able to heal him again. Ein realized that he would suffer if he didn't take things seriously. As soon as Ursula removed the barrier, he reassessed the monster and became aware of the monster's movements, target, and attack method, and used this information to dodge its next strike. After successfully dodging the first strike, Ein's self-confidence soared. As soon as he was distracted by Ursula's gaze, the monster attacked him again, tearing him apart. He realized that he shouldn't get too cocky and decided to master his unique skill in order to survive and get out of the maze alive. A week later, Ein is getting better at dodging the monster's attacks, but whenever he relaxes his defense, he ends up with deep wounds, and Ursula uses World Tree drops to heal them, telling him that he has finally earned a passing grade and it's time for him to move on to new training. Ursula tells him that he will now have to defeat the monster. He tells her that he doesn't know how to fight, so Ursula tells him to use his eyes to master something without having to rely on his physical abilities. She gives him a wooden sword made from the World Tree that Yuri wanted to give him and threatens to take his life if the sword breaks. Ein took the sword and thought that all he had to do was wait for the right time and then attack the monster. When he started to strike, he was surprised that the monster avoided him. Ursula told him that he wouldn't be able to hit the monster if his strikes were slow, and that he had to find a way to improve his abilities. Ein thought about placing the sword where he would attack the monster, but failed to hit it again. Ursula scolded him and asked if the only thing his eye could assess was movement, and Ein realized that he could assess the monster's trajectory as well. Ein used his super assessment ability and was surprised when the monster slowed down and he was able to hit it easily. When he managed to bring it down in one hit, he realized that it was heading towards him at full speed and felt proud that he was able to defeat an S-class monster, but Ursula told him not to get too cocky and told him to take on all the monsters around them. Hundreds of them appeared in front of them, and after some time, Ein managed to defeat them effortlessly. Ursula decided to train him in another skill, assessing the ability of monsters and making it his own. She told him that humans can gain abilities through practice, and he would be able to gain experience with his new magical eye. When Ein used his ability on a monster, he was shocked to find that his body had absorbed the monster's ability after it had been taken away from him. He felt as if the information was being fed directly into his head, and he found himself gaining the monster's movement speed. But unfortunately, his weak body couldn't keep up with the speed he had gained. Ursula healed his feet and told him to keep running until his body adjusted to his speed. Ein kept running and falling and trying to run again until his muscles were stronger and his body was flexible. Ursula told him not to get too cocky and that he wasn't ready to face the giant bear yet. She decided to help him in some way and let him evaluate her abilities. When he did, Ursula burned him with a ball of flame without warning and told him that her ability was to use magic just by thinking about it, making her able to cast magic without having to recite spells. When Ein assessed her ability again, he was able to obtain it, and after 5 days, he was able to use magic and a flame ball without spells. However, he was collapsing due to his low magical energy, but Ursula and Yuri were always there to help him. After half a month, Ein managed to gain the ability to use mid-level magic and shoot 1,000 flame balls at once as well as wind magic. And when Ursula found that he was strong enough, she told him that it was time for him to take revenge against the bear. Ein felt nervous at the sight of the bear, but Ursula told him that he was stronger than ever, although he was still weak, and that he could easily defeat the bear if he applied what he had learned recently. Ein gathered his courage and went to take revenge on the bear, thinking that he wasn't that pathetic person anymore. When he stood in front of the bear, he started shooting flame balls at it and then used his super speed to sneak up behind it and succeeded in damaging it with wind magic. When the bear lunged at him, he assessed him and decided to shoot more flame balls at him until he fell to the ground. After defeating him, Ein felt that the bear's level was weaker than he expected, but he soon realized that he was the one who had become stronger than the bear that was about to take his life. Ein gained the bear's power after defeating it, and Ursula told him that all he had to do now was to make his way to the exit of the maze and defeat the monsters that would intercept him. But Ein realized that this was his last training under her, and he would have to leave. Before he left, Ursula told him that she would give him a unique gift at Yuri's request. She gave him a fancy stone and told him that it was the remnant of the tree spirit core. Ein refused to take it, as it was the source of Yuri's power, and she had already given him some of her power to restore his sight. She told him that the stone would remain on loan, as she had placed a spell on it to return to them in the event of his death, and then implanted it in his magical eye, telling him that in time he would realize how powerful his eye would be, and that it would be comparable to the power of a god. When he went to thank Yuri for her help, he was surprised to find that she had disappeared and reappeared in front of him. She told him that she had planted her seed in his eye, so she could accompany him wherever he went, and Yuri told him that she would be useful to him and help him survive. He wondered if Ursula was okay with it, and then she gave him a resounding kick and told him that she definitely wouldn't want to trust her daughter with scum like him, but she agreed because Yuri had known no one else since she was born and was lonely. But with him, she would be happy because he had a good heart, and asked him to show her the wide world through his eyes. Then she decided to give him a farewell gift before his departure and cast a spell on his hand that allows him to store as many valuable materials and items as he wants. Then she gave him the soul sword that she made especially for him, and implanted it in his eye before it became his property. Ein felt the power of the stone in his right eye, and Ursula told him that this power would allow her to watch him at all times, and warned him not to try to woo Yuri under her watchful eye. Before he left with Yuri, he asked her if there was anything she wanted to do once they got out of the maze. She told him that she wanted to see her family and her sisters. Ein was surprised that she had a family at all, and Ursula told him that she wanted to visit the 9 world trees, which were originally one giant tree, but after splitting, the 9 trees were hidden in caves in different areas. Ein decides to return the favor and help Yuri find her family by traveling around the world and searching for the rest of the trees, and she feels grateful to him, while Ursula is reassured that she will be happy and safe in the company of someone like Ein. As they began their journey out of the maze, Ein came to a fork in the road and was surprised to hear Ursula's voice speaking inside his head, telling him to take the left path and saying that she had already mapped out a way out for him through the arrows he could see on the ground. Ein summoned his sword and used his powers to overcome the snake, and succeeded in tearing it to pieces with ease. Then he was surprised by Ursula evaluating the snake while he was smug, and helped him gain her abilities after her death. Ein was surprised that he didn't feel the headache that hits his head when acquiring new skills, and Yuri appeared and told him that she had healed him before he felt any pain. Ein was relieved that he wouldn't have this headache anymore, and expressed his gratitude to her, and told her that he was lucky to have met her, which made her face almost explode with shame. Then he ended up in front of a huge door that he felt he would have a hard time passing. Ursula told him that he had to open that door to get to the surface by defeating the labyrinth boss and getting the labyrinth core, but she warned him that the boss would be stronger than he expected. Ein was worried about taking on such a big challenge, and that if he lost, Ursula and Yuri's efforts would be in vain. Yuri held his hand and told him that he would be fine. As they all encouraged him, he remembered that he was no longer the garbage collector who ran away in times of danger. Then he went to the core of the labyrinth, and suddenly the boss appeared out of nowhere. Realizing how dangerous he was, Ein asked Yuri to go back inside his eye, and then rushed towards him to attack using his abilities, with Ursula helping him by constantly analyzing the monster's movements. When the boss threw a punch at him, it felt like a meteorite, but he was able to block it with Yuri's help. He then used his venomous viper abilities to damage it, but the boss quickly responded with a thunderous attack. Ein manages to dodge the attack and thinks he'll have a hard time beating him. Ursula decides to let him use her magic spells, and tells him that Yuri will take care of him if he's too weak. So Ein uses his ultimate spell, a combination of fire and wind magic. Ein succeeded in dealing overwhelming damage to the boss, turning him into ashes in no time. He couldn't believe that he could beat the labyrinth boss on the first try, and felt that he couldn't have done it alone, and expressed his gratitude to Yuri. He then used the evaluation to find out the boss's stats. Ursula told him to use his power on the core, and Ein was surprised that he could evaluate the core and gain the abilities inside. Ursula appears out of nowhere and tells him that she can teleport to him since his eye is essentially the world tree. She then finds that the labyrinth core is similar to the soul core core and thinks about making his eye more powerful by using it. Ein asked her to use the core to further develop his eye. After she implanted it, she told him that he could develop it further by defeating the cave bosses and obtaining the core. After they exited the core chamber, he was surprised to find the door closing automatically. Ursula told him that the labyrinth had sealed the way to the World Tree after losing its core, which meant that no adventurer could reach the World Tree anymore and Yuri would live in peace forever. The three of them headed for the exit, and Ein finally made it out of the labyrinth alive. Meanwhile, the cowardly adventurer Zoid was telling his comrades what he experienced in the maze and warning them not to approach him, claiming that Ein was the one who chose to sacrifice himself so that he and Jolene could get out alive, and pretending to be sad about his death to gain everyone's sympathy while trying to compensate Ein by making him a hero in the eyes of everyone after his death. As he continues his charade in front of everyone, he is shocked to see Ein standing behind him after he came back and is upset that he didn't die as he expected. When he asks him how he is still alive, Ein tells him that he was able to get out after defeating the monsters. Zoid thought he was lying at first glance, while the others were surprised that he was not happy about the return of his comrade who had already saved his life. Then Ein realized that he had made up a lie to cover up his crime against him and did not hesitate to tell everyone the fact that he and Jolene used him as bait so that they could escape from the labyrinth. Zoid tried to convince them that he wanted to discredit him, but everyone realized that he had been lying the whole time and started kicking his and throwing food at him, but Ein intervened and stopped them from beating him, telling them that he was still alive, so there was no point in punishing him. He then remembered that he owed Zoid for letting him join his band and that he met Yuri and Ursula thanks to his abandonment. Then he approached him, expressed his gratitude, and left the bar quietly amidst everyone's amazement at his sudden change. A few days later, Ein succeeded in defeating the leader of a labyrinth near the capital and upgraded his magic eye to the 3rd level, but he was surprised that there was no World Tree in this labyrinth, and Ursula told him that finding the 9 trees would not be as easy as he had imagined. He told Yuri that it might take them longer to find her family. On their way, they came across a carriage being attacked by monsters, so he intervened, defeated them in one fell swoop, and took away their abilities, then went to check on the people inside the carriage. He noticed a pretty girl with pink hair and was surprised when she rushed towards him and called him her hero. He asked the guy with her if he was her older brother, and he told him that he wasn't, and that his name was Jasper, the head of a business company. Then he told him that this girl is the 3rd princess of the kingdom, and her name is Claudia, and he ended up being invited to the royal palace for Claudia to express her gratitude to him for saving her life. And when she wanted to hug him again, Yuri stopped between them and prevented her from approaching him, and Ein was shocked when she claimed to be his wife, although Claudia decided to compete with her and become his second wife. While Ein was drinking tea, he found Jasper sitting next to him and asked him to marry him. He was shocked by his sudden request, and Jasper explained to him that he is the head of a famous company known as Geno, then took them to the place where the world's jewels are stored and told them that his mission is to protect those jewels. Ein found that Jasper already knew the power of his magic eye, which contains the spirit of the World Tree, and told him the legend that the World Tree stood above the earth long ago to seal the Demon King who tried to destroy the world, but the tree drained its power and withered, leaving the core of its soul behind. Ein then realized that it was the Demon King's seal that cost the earth the World Tree and caused it to disintegrate. Then he found Jasper telling him that he had been looking for the core for a long time until they met and asked him to let him stay close to him forever, and Ein felt awkward receiving a direct marriage proposal from him. Ursula pulls him away and asks him what he's going to do about it. He tells her that he's going to refuse the offer, but she disagrees and tells him that he should stay close to him because he's been looking for the core for a long time, which means he might know a lot about the 9 trees of the world. Ein tries to find a solution that satisfies everyone and offers Jasper to become friends, and he accepts his offer for now and tells him that he can live in the palace starting today. And when Ein asks him about the 9 trees, he tells him that they are located in very dangerous areas and are almost impossible to find, although Ein asks him to tell him what he knows and trusts his ability to find the rest of the trees. The next day, Ein and his companions arrive at the secret maze that Jasper told him about, hoping to find one of Yuri's family members there. When Ein enters the maze, he reaches a dead end and finds Ursula telling him that the wall is formed by teleportation magic, and he will be able to pass through the wall by touching it. When he touched the wall, he was surprised that it was gone, and that the maze was basically a big forest. Ursula realized that the place was filled with illusion magic that makes the maze look like a forest. Then he found Yuri talking to someone who wasn't there. On the other side, Pina was communicating with them through a magic crystal, and was surprised that her sister was allied with a human. She then told them that she was waiting for them at the end of the maze, and when Ein asked her to teleport them to her, she she refused and forced him to walk the distance. Then she adds that she's already set traps for him, and the maze is full of monsters, so she can't guarantee he'll make it safely. Yuri takes this as a challenge and decides to give it her best shot. When Ein starts to move, Pina realizes that he is overconfident and warns him that her maze is the most difficult of all the secret mazes and advises him to give up quickly, but he insists on moving on. When he reaches a certain point, Pina expects him to fall into a hidden hole underneath. However, he quickly noticed and avoided it after Ursula told him about the existence of the hole, and over time he succeeded in passing all the traps in the maze, which angered Pina, who took the trouble to set them, and was surprised when Yuri told him that her sister is used to making fun things for others to enjoy, and he told her that these traps are not fun as one wrong move could kill him. Pina tells him that her maze is designed to bring him to the surface when he faces real danger, and warns him that a powerful monster is about to appear. Ein finds a strange monster standing in front of him, and Ursula tells him that it's a Ruwani, an S-class subhuman monster. The monster attacks him with a hypnotic vaccine, and Pina thinks he's going to pass out immediately, but is shocked to find that he has poison resistance, and tells her that he will do his best for Yuri, then summons his sword and slices the monster in half. As he was using his evaluation skill, he was suddenly attacked by an unknown monster, so he sat down and looked around. Ursula told him that this creature uses the stealth skill, and Pina was surprised that he was unharmed. He told her that he had the ability to disarm traps and that normal attacks wouldn't work on him. Pina was frustrated that he was invulnerable, but she was confident that he wouldn't be able to withstand the invisible monster's attacks. But thanks to Ursula's ability, Ein managed to take him down, and it turned out that he had been attacked by ant monsters and had obtained their cloaking powers. Pina was furious that he was defeating S-ranked monsters effortlessly and decided not to give up before she got him. She ordered 2 of her strongest monsters to attack him at once, but he eliminated them with a single blow with the soul sword, and Pina felt that she was facing an invincible monster and that all her plans would fail in front of him. Meanwhile, Zoid was on his way to the guild, and when he arrived, he found everyone talking badly about him as the one who betrayed his comrade and used him as bait to escape. When he encountered Jolene, he was surprised to find her refusing to communicate with him and telling him to stay away from her. A group of adventurers intercepted him, and he realized that she had betrayed him and claimed that he had forced her to use the paralysis spell on Ein to gain their sympathy. Zoid ends up being thrown out of the guild, and someone tells him that no one will want to form an alliance with him under any circumstances. Zoid is furious that everyone hates him because of Ein's return and thinks that he will go on a high-level mission on his own and achieve success that will force everyone to recognize him as an adventurer. He is then tasked with taking down a Class C monster, and although he knows it's almost impossible, he decides to trust that he can do it on his own. But when he accidentally touches the wall, he realizes that he has entered a jungle-like place. He soon realized that he had entered a secret labyrinth, and that the place would be full of supernatural monsters, and he had no choice but to go ahead and carry out his mission. And as soon as he started taking his first steps inside the maze, he found himself falling into a deep hole and thought he would die immediately. To his surprise, he was back in the normal maze again and started hearing Pina's voice telling him that no one dies in her maze and that he was allowed to come and try to explore the secret maze at any time. So Zoid decided to take advantage of that and try to explore the maze again. Zoid ended up being attacked and injured by all of Pina's traps until he found himself facing off against a legendary crocodile after being overwhelmed by its overwhelming attack. Pina advised him to surrender so he could get out of the maze, but he insisted on continuing to fight. Zoid failed to get up due to the crocodile's constant attacks and was close to being eaten. And just as the crocodile was about to devour him, Ein appeared out of nowhere and rescued Zoid, and then they were surprised to see each other. Zoid couldn't believe that a garbage collector like him could defeat such a monster with one blow. After Ein finished evaluating the monster, he asked Yuri to treat Zoid, and when he recovered from his injuries, he wanted to ask him questions, but Ein told him that he was busy at the moment and made him unconscious to ask Pina to get him out of the maze quickly. After that, Ein arrived at the maze leader's room, and when he entered, he found that it was also a forest. But he was surprised by the shaking of the ground below him, so he was forced to fly away thinking that the ground was his enemy, and he was soon shocked to see a huge turtle appear from below, carrying part of the ground on its back. Ein began to grumble about facing a monster of this size, then summoned his courage and tried to damage it with magic, but he was surprised that he didn't get a scratch from his flame balls. Then the monster responded with an attack by shooting a large ball of water at him. Ein blocked and deflected the attack, but to no avail as the monster was still standing in front of him. him. Realizing why he was unaffected by the attacks, he descended to the ground and used dispel magic to reveal the monster's true form, a small, useless turtle. Ein confirmed his guess that the monster was nothing more than a spiritual illusion capable of altering space, then picked up the turtle and assessed it. Ein was surprised that he still had to defeat the turtle even after revealing its true form. He tried to convince Pina to be satisfied that he had uncovered her trick and consider him a winner, as he would not be able to take the life of a weak creature like him. He succeeded in influencing Pina's emotions, who decided to consider him a winner and opened the way to her home. Yuri couldn't hide her excitement at seeing her younger sister after so long, while Pina was furious when she saw Ein face to face. She told her that he was a good person, which made Pina realize that she was in love with him. She then decides to make a deal with Ein to give him her soul core in exchange for allowing her to accompany them, since she is bored of being underground all the time, so he doesn't oppose it for Yuri's happiness. To his surprise, the turtle descends from his shoulder and transforms into a girl, telling him that her name is Kuroheim, Pina's guardian, and the daughter of the Black Turtle, one of the 4 sacred monsters, and to his surprise, Ursula can't talk to her as rudely as she does to him. He approached her and asked for her permission to accompany Pina on his journey, and she agreed to his request in exchange for her accompanying them in turn. Then she gave him the Philosopher's Stone to bind his consciousness to her, as Ursula did, and after Ein got Pina's core in the stone, Ursula gave him the core of the labyrinth. He feels that things are going well with his increased number of companions, and most importantly, Yuri seems happy and aims to find the rest of the trees to reunite her family. On the other hand, Zord is feeling sorry for himself after he ends up being rescued by a garbage collector who was nothing but scum in his squad, but is now outclassed by him. The next day, Ein went to meet Jasper at the Adventurers Guild in the capital and felt nervous about everyone's constant stares. When the supervisor came to help them, Ein told her that he wanted to sell some items he had collected from the mazes, and in return, Jasper wanted to buy everything Ein would sell to the guild. When the supervisor checked his ID card, she was shocked that he was a resident and had defeated so many monsters and collected their items. She suspected that he was trying to trick Jasper somehow, but he soon shocked everyone when he pulled out what he had collected from his storage room. Everyone was surprised to find that he had items belonging to the maze bosses, and some people accused him of stealing these items from their original owners, which made Ein feel frustrated and remembered that this is why he didn't want to go to the guild, because he doesn't like attracting attention or being disrespected. The guild leader Megan then appeared and scolded everyone for judging someone by their job, calling them fools. Then she approached Ein and admired the beauty of his eyes, which made him surprised to realize that he had magical eyes at first glance. After that, the supervisor didn't believe that the items in his possession were real after she examined them, and Jasper told everyone that he trusted Ein's strength to defeat all the monsters he collected himself, forcing the receptionist to apologize to him. Megan asked him to forgive her now and teach her a lesson later, telling him that judging people based on their jobs is rude and that life is interesting because there are people who reject the fate they were born with. This gave Ein some confidence, and he no longer felt bad about coming to the guild. Megan offered him to join her guild as she liked strong adventurers like him and gave him a chance to think about it before she left. The supervisor then asked Ein to sit in the waiting room while she prepared his money, but Jasper told him to give her the other items he had collected from the secret labyrinth. To the amazement of everyone who gathered around him upon hearing this, and he ended up fleeing. In the evening, Ein sat relaxing in the bathroom of his palace, thinking that people admiring him was a strange feeling inside himself. Then he was surprised to find Yuri next to him in the bathroom, while she wondered at his reaction as if he intended to run away, and Pina appeared out of nowhere and told her that he was nervous when he saw her naked. He wondered why they were in the men's room, and Pina told him that they were spirits who were not subject to human laws. Then Ursula appeared behind him and accused him of looking at her daughter in a perverted way, and threatened that she would use her full strength to blow him up if he just tried to touch her. Yuri tries to calm her down and tells her that Ein is not a pervert but a wonderful person. And when Ursula realizes that she is completely in love with him, she decides to use her biggest flame ball to turn him into ashes, so he has to run out of the bathroom and goes to catch his breath in the restroom. He found Kuroheim sitting there expressing her pleasure at the vitality of the spirits and felt that she had made the right decision in taking Pina into his care. He asked her if she considered her daughter, and she replied that the guardians are the ones who make the nucleus of the spirits, and the girls are the ones who incarnate into them. Ein thinks that he still has to find 6 spirits with other guardians. Kuroheim tells him that there are only 7 spirits. Ein is surprised that the first tree has withered as far as he knows, but she tells him that its core has not been completely destroyed, so it is still alive. Then she added that the first spirit, which is the older sister of all the spirits, is called Echidna and is supposed to be somewhere around the world with her guardian, but they don't know where the labyrinths containing the trees of the world are. Kurohime asks Ein if he wants to stop, but he refuses, telling her that he owes Yuri so much that he wants to help her find her family. And Kurohime realizes that he has the ability to attract others to him, regardless of his appearance and his job as an adventurer. The next day, Ein decides to do his best to gather information and is surprised by the presence of Megan, who comes to visit him with Jasper, who tells him that she came to ask him for something personal, and he is surprised that she chose him specifically, and Megan tells him that it is something only he can do. Then they told him about Behemoth, one of the most powerful dragons of the Demon King, who was supposedly hiding in the middle of nowhere after being sealed by his master, but for some reason he reappeared and started attacking merchants passing through this area. Ein is shocked when he realizes that Megan intends to assign and to eliminate the SS-rated Behemoth. Jasper warns him that this mission may cost him his life, but Ein decides to accept the mission to help them get through the crisis. Megan decides to rely on him and officially assigns him to the mission. A few days later, Ein wanders the desert looking for Behemoth, suffering from heat and thirst. Ursula tells him that the dragon is somewhere around here and is able to evaluate his abilities and finds that he can absorb spells and make their power his own, in addition to his ability to control the air. Ein decides to use his physical abilities to confront him, and Ursula tells him to lure him to the surface, as he always hides under the sand during the day, and Ein uses his magical abilities to attack the ground. After causing a gaping hole, the dragon Behemoth emerges from it, furious that someone is disturbing his slumber. Ein realizes his strength as soon as he sees his size, and Behemoth tells him that he never tasted defeat after the Demon King gave him life, and since then, he has never met anyone stronger than him. When Ein told him that he had come specifically to defeat him, Behemoth scoffed at his confidence that a weakling like him could match his strength, and told him that the Demon King had given him unrivaled strength from birth. When Ein taunted the Demon King, Behemoth became enraged and attacked him, while Ein used his speed to dodge his attacks and then rushed towards him and managed to damage him by amputating his hand. Shocked that a human could cut off his hand despite his tough skin, Behemoth returned to the sand to surprise him with a surprise attack, swimming underneath Ein like a shark, confident that he could beat him with this trick. He ended up devouring Ein inside him and thought he had triumphed over an arrogant human who thought he was stronger than him. But things soon turned against him as Ein used his strength to tear him to pieces, making him feel a pain he had never felt before. When he looked into Uin's eyes, he realized that he had underestimated him and that he had become the victim in front of him, and he felt that this is the first time he tasted the taste of defeat. Then he was curious to know how he lost to a human like him. So Ein told him that he released all his magic inside his body. Behemoth was shocked when Ein told him that he had already used illusion magic on him without realizing it, and that what led to his defeat was his constant condescension towards humans. He realized that he had lost the moment they met each other, and before his body faded away, he admired Ein's accomplishment for humanity by defeating him. After his death, Ein thought that maybe he was evil, because the Demon King made him that way, and maybe he would have ended up like him if he hadn't met Yuri and Ursula. Ursula told him that it wouldn't change the fact that he was an evil person who attacked humans, as one's nature never changes. Afterward, Ein assessed his abilities and found his comrades admiring his strength, as no one had ever defeated a dragon before except the hero, who had been sealed by the Demon King, so he told them that he could do it thanks to the strength he received from them. A few days later, Ein went to the royal palace, and while he was sitting in the waiting room, he found Claudia joining him and telling him that her father wanted to meet him specially, and Ein could not believe that he was standing in front of the king in person, and he began to stutter in front of him. But he soon realized that the king has a friendly and humble personality. He then expressed his pleasure at seeing his future son-in-law and told him that he wanted to meet him after hearing that he had defeated Behemoth and wanted to express his gratitude. Ein felt embarrassed and told him that he was just doing his job. The king told him that defeating the dragon was not his only accomplishment and that he had already saved his daughter. Ein was surprised to see him bow his head in thanks and told him that he should thank Yuri, who had given him the strength to do all this. The king realizes that he hasn't lost himself under the influence of power and is still humble and predicts that he will become someone of great stature in the future. Before he leaves, he gives him a watch with the royal emblem as a gift that allows him to go anywhere. Ein thinks that he will be able to check things he couldn't reach before and decides to use it to find Yuri's family. Meanwhile, Zoid was walking around hearing everyone talking about Ein and his accomplishments, which made him feel angry because he was stronger than him not long ago and should have stayed behind and picked up the trash where he belonged. As he was complaining about the way things had turned out, a mysterious woman stood in front of him offering to help him get back to normal and told him that her name was Echidna and that she was originally a spirit. Yuri is worried that Ein hasn't woken up yet, but Pinna thinks she's overly concerned and that he's just exhausted. She suggests that she make him some food to make him feel better, and after Yuri likes the idea, Pinna decides to go shopping. Yuri told her that they shouldn't stay away from Ein because they wouldn't be in danger outside, but Pinna told her that everything would be fine and there was nothing to worry about. Echidna felt that Zoid had a grudge against someone, so she decided to help him get revenge on him. Meanwhile, Ein was immersed in a dream where he saw his painful past as a garbage collector scum working for Zoid who mistreated him and gave him a paltry amount of money as a reward. Yet he felt satisfied and couldn't stop smiling. Ein felt angry at the sight of his old self and wanted to stop himself from behaving psychophantically towards Zoid. Then he saw himself being eaten to death by hounds and thought that this would have been the end of him if he hadn't met Yuri. Then his corpse approached him, telling him that he was just lucky to have met Yuri and the others, that he'd gotten all that power without working for it, and that scum like him would be scum no matter what they did. Ein woke up in a panic and found Ursula sitting next to him. The last thing Ein remembered was meeting the king. She told him that he had exhausted himself too much, which caused him to sleep for a long time and caused the others to worry about him, then added that he was crying in his sleep, and before she left, he wondered if his fate had changed by chance because of meeting them, and that he was still the same person with a different power. Zoid, on the other hand, didn't believe that he could take revenge on Ein with the help of Echidna, while she told him that the person he wanted to take revenge on had magical eyes, which is why he was able to gain so much power so effortlessly. When Echidna offered to give him a magical eye that would make him as powerful as he was, Zoid didn't hesitate to get it at any cost. Echidna gave him her eye, and after planting it in the center of his forehead, he was transformed into a monster, and she enjoyed controlling him like a slave, while Zoid was happy to feel powerful inside his body, and that he could do things beyond the limits of his normal body. As he was jumping between rooftops, he noticed Jolene hanging out with someone and decided to take revenge on her. When the person she was with tried to stop him, he ate his head right in front of her, and she was scared. She quickly recognized him when she heard his voice and apologized for everything so that he would leave her alone, even offering to go to the syndicate and tell them the truth about what they did to Ein. When Zoid realized that she kept making excuses and lying to gain his sympathy, he didn't hesitate to take her life and ended up eating her head on the spot. Meanwhile, Yuri and Pinna were on their way to the market, and Yuri suddenly decided to do her best to help Ian after remembering how he looked when he had a nightmare in his sleep. Suddenly, they felt a loud explosion near them, and the place became chaotic. Yuri rushed out the injured while Echidna was enjoying Zoid's show by attacking everyone in his line of sight. Then she told him that he should target the spirits and get rid of them in order to rob Ein of his power and return to the past. Yuri was surprised when Zoid appeared behind her and did not hesitate to attack her, and Pinna intervened to lock him inside her barrier so that they could escape. Echidna told him it was time to use the power she had given him to destroy the barrier. Zoid used his anti-spiritual power to destroy the barrier and catch up with the sisters. When Pinna tried to put up another barrier, he delivered a crushing blow to her. As he approached her, Yuri stood between them to give her time to escape. He grabbed her and began to squeeze her body, calling her a fool for giving power to scum like Ein. Before he could finish her off, Ein appeared out of nowhere and tackled him. When he assessed him, he realized he was an artificial chimera and that he had anti-spiritual power skills. Zoid attacks him, and Ein can only dodge his blows with a barrier, but he soon realizes that Zoid can break through barriers and destroy them. Then he is surprised that he knows his name and realizes that he is fighting Zoid. He told him that he had gained the power of the soul and evolved like him, then threw a thunderous punch and continued to attack him while Ein could only dodge and move away from him. And Ursula marveled at his reluctance to fight him and told him that he would cause his death if he did not get rid of him. Zoid continued to attack him non-stop and then became curious as to why Ein didn't use the power he had gained to serve his own interests, as he had done when he took revenge on his betrayed lover. Zoid tried to convince him that they were alike in their desire for revenge against those who had wronged them, and that he knew very well that he wanted to take revenge on him because he had been mistreating him all the time. And Ein remembered the nightmare he had had and his old self told him that everyone called him a garbage collector because of his social status. Yuri intervened to stop the voices in his head and told Zoid that Ein wasn't that kind of person, as he didn't hold a grudge against anyone despite his power. He then finds Ursula approaching him and tells him that he has become stronger, even in his heart, for choosing to use his power to protect those in need and give back to Yuri, and that he always had courage and kindness inside himself before he met Yuri. Yuri then tells him that meeting him is why she's here now, that she wants to meet her family, and that it's because of him that she changed her destiny. Ein starts crying after realizing they're right, while Zoid keeps trying to influence him and reinforce the voices in his head that he's still scum at the end of the day. He told them that he had always seen this world as horrible when he lacked power, and despite his previous miserable situation, Yuri and the others believed in him. So he decided to become trusted by his comrades and unleashed his power to overcome Zoid, who was shocked by the sheer amount of magical energy he had. Ein decides to become strong enough to protect everyone, and Ursula tells him that he has become aware of the fact that he is their guardian and can now use the full power of the spirits, and when Zoid lunges at him, he manages to deliver a resounding blow to her. Zoid tried to attack him again, thinking he could break through his barrier, but was surprised to find that Ein had successfully blocked him with his protective barrier. Ursula told him that he was no match for Ein now, and that he only seemed to have gotten 10% of the soul power that he had encountered along the way. Zoid begged Echidna to give him more of her power, and when she did, he went crazy and rushed towards Ein again to finish him off, but he ended up defeated after Ein, with one swing of his sword, managed to free him from Echidna's control. He then approached Zoid and extended his hand to help him get up, which made him feel angry and asked him why he always wanted to help him. Ein replied that he did not need a reason to help others, even if he was weak, and told Zoid that he could change for the better as he did, and the beginning would be when he took the hand that was extended in front of him. Zoid was moved by his words and began to cry as he leaned on him to get up. He ended up being taken to prison after the authorities arrested him, while Ein thought that someone had taken advantage of his weak heart to give him the power of spirits. In the evening, Echidna went to the battlefield and took what was left of her magic eye, feeling triumphant that her plan to obtain information about Ein's combat capabilities had succeeded. But the only thing that did not go according to plan was that Zoid was still alive, so she had to seal the memories of his transformation into a monster and vowed to do what she could to free the Demon King from his seal. The next day, Ein is surprised when Yuri asks him to give her a kiss and tells him that it is a special ritual between spirits and their guardians, and although Ursula is upset, she tells him that it is necessary to strengthen the connection between him and the spirits after he realizes the fact that he has become their guardian. Ein thought that this kiss would be like a knight's pledge of allegiance to the king, so he decided to give her the kiss, but seeing the others staring at him curiously, Ursula decided to leave the room so he could have some privacy and warned Ein that she would take his life if he did anything other than the kiss. When he was alone with Yuri, he was shocked that she intended to kiss him on the mouth and not on the hand as a servant does with his master, so he approached her and decided to kiss her head, and was surprised when her level rose, and she told him that now she felt so happy that she wanted to go up to the sky. On the other side, Echidna arrived at her headquarters and was greeted by Baron Falco. She told him that the Demon King had tasked him with eliminating Ein. He wondered why he should bother with such a lowly creature. She told him that he was strong enough to defeat Behemoth on his own, and that she and the king were counting on him to do the job. Falco felt confident and decided to accept the mission. He traveled to the human world through a special portal, and then used his super speed to go directly to Ein's house. When he arrived, he found him standing on the balcony waiting for him, so he introduced himself and told him that he was a demon nobleman who had come to destroy him. Ein shrugged his shoulders and told him to speak quietly so as not to wake everyone up. Angered by his arrogance, he decided to attack him, but ended up getting a resounding slap from Ein that knocked him back to where he was. Then he found him hovering right above him and realized how powerful he was due to his magical eye. Ein launched an overwhelming attack on him, causing him to die instantly. When he assessed his power, he thought that he was not targeting any of the spirits, but rather he wanted to get rid of him. The next day, Ein went to the royal palace and met Claudia on the way. He told her that he had come to look for something in her family's forbidden library, but she told him that no one could enter except with the consent of the king and the librarian. He took out his royal insignia and thought about how he could get the librarian's approval. As he continued toward the library, Yuri stopped behind him and told him that she felt as if she had hit an invisible wall and lost contact with him. Ursula appeared and told him that there was a strong barrier preventing anything but humans from passing through. He marveled at how the barrier was so strong that she couldn't teleport through it and had to continue on his way alone. When he reached the library, he found that it was filled with thousands of books and felt that he would have a hard time finding what he wanted. Then he was surprised to see see a girl falling from a high height, and he rushed towards her to pick her up, but she moved away from him and thanked him for saving her. Ein was curious to know her, and she told him that her name is Alice. When he asked her why she fell, she told him that she was engrossed in reading a book and didn't feel herself. Then she used her wand to put the book back and told him that she is a librarian. He expressed his gratitude to her for letting him into the library. When she asked him why he had come, he told her that he had come to research the secret labyrinths because he wanted to help one of his friends find her family. So she gave him a certain book and told him that he would find everything about the secret labyrinths in it. When he started reading the book, Alice asked him how Yuri was doing. He was surprised that she knew his name and told him that she knew that his left eye contained the nucleus of her soul, as she was also the soul of the world tree. After Ein left the library and read most of the pages of the book, he found a certain place where there was supposed to be a secret labyrinth. When he doubted the credibility of the information, he thought he would go back to the library and ask her directly, then apologized to Yuri for not being able to get her to meet her older sister and promised to try to solve it somehow. On the other side, Alice was watching him with her ability when her guardian Akahane appeared and asked why she didn't give him the book of their secret labyrinth. She replied that the idea of communicating with the outside world scares her a bit because she lacks the ability to fight, and she hates humans because they caused Echidna's death. After that, Ein returned to the library and was surprised to see Akahane. She told him that she is Alice's guardian, and when he suggested that they allow spirits to enter to meet Alice, Akahane told him that this is not possible as the library is basically located inside a secret passage, completely separate from the royal palace, and only humans can pass through the library gate because this place holds all the secrets of the kingdom and its history, and entering spirits here would be a violation of the system that was put in place. Then she added that he would have to find her secret labyrinth if he wanted her to meet her sisters. Ein suggested that he get Alice out of here naturally, but Akahane told him that she wouldn't last long outside the library and didn't want to leave. He approaches her and tells her that he understands her fear of entering a new world, even though she wants to meet with her sisters, and tells her that he was afraid too, but that he was able to move forward because they were there with him. He promised her that he would support her if she was going to take her first step outside and take care of the monsters. When he directly offered her to accompany him outside and put her trust in him, she was surprised that he was taking it seriously. Before he left, he promised to find the forbidden maze and come back to visit her tomorrow. After he leaves, Akahane tells her that she doesn't have to leave the library and that she can wait until he finds their labyrinth, then adds that she knows she fell in love with them by her facial expressions, and Alice is in a daze because she feels all the symptoms of love that she has read about when she sees him. Akahane tells her that she can trust Ein, and if things go wrong, she can go back to the library. When Ein comes back, Akahane pushes her towards him, encouraging Alice to make her move. Alice decides to put her trust in him and asks him to take her to the outside world, and to her surprise, he takes her in his arms and climbs out of the library to take her to the roof. Akahane gives him her core so he can take her with him, and then thinks about creating a clone of herself to accompany him since she can't use teleportation like the rest of them. On their way out, Ein realized how weak Alice was as she started to lose her powers as soon as they exited the library, so he carried her on his back and continued to beat the monsters in her secret maze until they reached the boss's room. Ein had a hard time beating him as he is good with a sword, so he had to use the sword as bait and give it up to get closer to him. And when his plan worked, he was able to deliver a thunderous kick that knocked him to the ground. After defeating the maze boss and reaching the roof with Alice and Akahane, he returns home and finally reunites Alice with her sisters. Yuri hugs Ein and expresses her gratitude towards him, which makes Alice jealous and wants to stick to him all the time. So Peanut takes the opportunity to tease her, and he ends up trapped by the three sisters. The next day, Ein was thinking about the next step he would take when he was surprised to be joined by Megan and Jasper, who told him that he received a personal request from the king regarding demons, and then Ein remembered his meeting with Falco that day. Megan told him that the demons were expelled from their world centuries ago when the heroes built a wall between them, but recently they have been appearing more frequently around the Rishik area, and tasked him with getting rid of the demons that are causing chaos there as he is the only one who can do it. Ursula asks why he wants to help strangers, and he tells her that he was a stranger when she and Yuri helped him that day, and he knows firsthand the fear and despair that can plague the people of this area because of the demon's tyranny. He then added that he wanted to follow in her and Yuri's footsteps and help the weak wherever they are. They'd all agreed, so he decided to start his journey towards Rishik. On the other side, the people of Rishik were suffering because of the chaos in their village. Then a huge, multi-headed monster appeared in front of them, and they bowed down to it and realized that they had to sacrifice sacrifice to it to save their lives, and one of them decided to sacrifice his daughter named Mia and explained to her that this monster would take her to heaven where her mother is. After he said goodbye to her and Mia approached the monster, he could not watch her die before his eyes, so he rushed towards her and begged him to eat them both. But the monster refused to eat a man, as he preferred the taste of women, and when the man refused to sacrifice his daughter, he angered the monster, who decided to exterminate everyone for breaking the agreement. The monster then released a poisonous substance from its mouth that paralyzed everyone and made them suffer a slow death. As it approached Mia to devour her, Ein appeared out of nowhere and used a protective barrier to block it. Ursula tells him that the monster is an SS-rated Hydra dragon capable of producing poison and medicine, so he decides to buy time for Yuri to help the villagers heal while he takes care of the dragon. Hydra was shocked when Yuri was able to remove the effect of the poison from everyone, while Ein told them to run away. But the villagers underestimated him and thought he had no chance against Hydra, so he took out his sword and managed to tear Hydra to pieces in one fell swoop. Then one of them remembered that he had heard of him before, as he is famous in the royal capital as the conqueror of ancient dragons, while Ein was surprised to hear the direct praise from Ursula. And after he evaluated Hydra's abilities and acquired them within him, everyone expressed their gratitude to him and considered him a hero. He asked them to allow him to meet the village lord, whereupon everyone fell silent, and Mia's father told him that although they were grateful to him for saving them from the dragon, they thought it best not to get involved with a stranger like him. After they left, Mia came back to him and expressed her gratitude in tears when she called him a god. He told her that he wasn't that amazing, but he wanted to protect them all. After she left, he decided to go to meet the village chief. When he arrived at the chief's palace, he felt that something was wrong, as it was the only luxurious place in the village, but it was empty. When he entered the palace, he was greeted by a young man named Negan, who escorted him to the guest room and offered him some sweets and tea. Ein was shocked when he ate the candy and found it salty, but he did not want to embarrass Negan. But when he took a bite, he could not bear its ugliness and apologized to Ein that he mixed salt and sugar. Ein then asked him to tell him more about the demons that have recently started appearing in their area, but Negan denied seeing any demons around his village and told him that the village is located near the Abyss Forest, which is known to be home to many monsters, and considered it just a rumor. Ein guessed that people were confused between monsters and demons, and Negan asked him to tell the guild that there was no trouble in his village. He told him that he wanted to take a look around to make sure, and when he mentioned defeating Hydra on his way here, Negan was shocked and yelled at him that he was going to cause the village to be attacked by monsters again, since Hydra was protecting the village at the time. Ein told him that the dragon was demanding sacrifices from the villagers, and he wasn't going to stand by and watch a little girl die. Negan didn't mind if someone sacrificed their life to save hundreds, and asked him if he intended to stay here and protect everyone forever, then told him that not everyone is as strong as he is, as they will have to face many hardships after he leaves, and that he is responsible for protecting the domain that he inherited from his father. After that, Ein left the palace, confused and wondering if he made a mistake in getting rid of Hydra. Yuri appeared in front of him and told him to take the path he thought was right. On the other side, Negan was nervous about losing Hydra and wondering what he should do. His consort, Shadow, tells him that they can easily find a replacement for the dragon, but the real issue lies with Ein, as a normal human cannot defeat an S-rated monster, making Ein more like a demon. He manages to trick Negan into getting rid of him in order to protect Rishik, and after he leaves, Shadow vows to take full control of Negan's body soon. After that, Ein went to the village border and found the wall in a deplorable state, and no one guarding the area from the watchtower. Then he came across a local girl, and when he wanted to get some information from her, she ran away. Ein thought that everyone here is afraid of Negan for some reason, but he decided not to give up and kept asking around until someone told him that many adventurers and army riders have passed through here and ended up helpless and turned their backs on the village, and he expects the same to happen to him. He then pointed to a field and told him that the monsters had ruined it in Hydra's absence, making it unfit for farming, and everyone was left wondering if they would starve to death first or be eaten by the monsters. Ein used his magic to rebuild the village and succeeded in repairing the field and the firewall amidst the farmer's amazement, then turned to him and asked him not to give up and to let him help the village. The farmer laughed and told him that this was the second time he had received such a request, as the first time was from Negan's father when they were fighting a group of monsters. After his son took over, things began to take a disastrous turn as Hydra appeared and Negan made a sacrificial pact with him on his own, reducing their defense force and imposing huge taxes on the people. Then the farmer expressed his desire to have faith or some sense of hope, and Ein was determined and told him that he would not regret his trust in him. And suddenly he was shocked to see an army of monsters heading towards the village through his magical eye. Although he decided not to allow any of them to set foot inside the village in his presence, Ein moved to the top of the wall, and when he saw their sheer numbers with his own eyes, he realized that the wall wouldn't hold if they stormed the village all at once. And when he looked at the villagers, he saw that they were desperate and unable to even escape. He remembered Mia and the farmer who still wanted to continue living, and decided not to let anyone die at the hands of the monsters. He told everyone to retreat and flew away to use his magical ability to attack a large number of monsters, but he was surprised that his attack only affected a few of them. Then a group of them rushed towards him to attack him back, but he managed to crush them easily and then used his large-scale magic again to get rid of as many of them as possible and buy time for the villagers to hide in their homes. In a matter of minutes, Ein succeeded in defeating the entire monster army amidst the amazement of the villagers, while Yuri warned him that he would be the first to fall if he continued to fight like this. But he insisted on continuing to fight and protect everyone. After the end of the fight, Ein's strength faded and he ended up losing consciousness, although he was happy that he had succeeded in his mission. So Yuri healed his body, while Ursula was surprised that he pushed himself to the limit to the point that Yuri's healing was not enough for him. After a while, Ein regained his strength, and as soon as he got up, Mia jumped up to express her gratitude, and then everyone thanked him for saving their village twice. They found the farmers seriously wondering if they should continue living like this, as someone who barely knew them and yet almost died to protect them, while all they do is rage and wait for death. When they tried to rationalize that they were doing what their ruler told them to do, he told them they were just making excuses, that fighting wouldn't change anything. But it turned out to change everything, and the proof was that Ein had saved their lives on his own. They all became brave, confident, and willing to fight, and decided to take their fate into their own hands. Ein was relieved that they wanted to continue living and had finally given up on despair. He then told Yuri that he felt the same way after he met her, and she saved him and gave him everything he needed to continue living. And he told her that he wanted to stay close to her, to witness everything she saw with her own eyes, and to follow in her footsteps. The villagers then turned to him and told him that they would fight for their future, and would not let Negan control them anymore. Negan appeared out of nowhere behind him, and they all summoned the courage to tell him that they would not follow him. Negan tried to convince them that they were being deceived by Ein, telling them that he was a demon in human form, that what he was doing was impossible for a normal human to do, and that he was trying to take control of their village. He vowed that he would protect the village at all costs, as he had always done, but he was surprised that no one was affected by his words at all. On the contrary, they welcomed the idea that Ein was a demon who wanted to control the village, and thought that this would be much better than their current situation. Then the farmer told him that they don't want a ruler like him who is willing to sacrifice their lives to protect the land, but they need someone who will fight alongside them as his father did. And Negan began to feel pain in his head when he remembered his father and begged Shadow to help him convince them. Then he took out a pendant containing a mirror, and when Ein wanted to evaluate it, he was surprised that he could not read anything about it because of the invisibility mode, and he remembered that the same thing happened with Zoid. So he rushed towards him to make him let go of his hand, but Shadow quickly grabbed him after he surrounded him with his powers. Negan sits with him alone, and when he asks him what he should do, he tells him to just keep doing what he tells him, and that everything will get better in time, and tells him to exterminate them because they have become disobedient to him, and that they have to get rid of them like they did with his father. When he told him that the situation was different now that his father was sick, Shadow decided to tell him the truth, and then he remembered when he was young, when he used to accompany his father as he worked to help the villagers, and he admired his character and everyone's love for him, and decided to follow his example and be a great master someday. Then he was excited to help him, and while walking he tripped over some stones, so his father told him to go play with his friends, as the child's job is to play and enjoy his time. And when he went to the village children, they refused to play with him because of his illness and the spread of a rumor that he is contagious. Then he ended up alone trying to convince them that he does not suffer from a disease, and that he only suffers from a weak body. After that, he listened to the rumors that the villagers called him an orphan child taken from the Abyss Forest, and then he decided to return home quickly. But he stumbled on his way and started crying when he thought that he was not the son of the village chief, and that this was the reason for his weakness. While he was crying, his reflection appeared in the pool of water in front of him, and told him that it was okay not to be his real father's son or not to be like him, and told him to do what he wanted and be himself. When When Negan wondered why he was there and that he looked so much like him, Shadow told him that he was his imaginary friend and told him to keep it a secret or he would disappear forever. Negan felt happy that he had finally made a friend and spent all his time with him doing various activities together. One day, Negan was walking around the palace when he noticed his father sitting in the room alone and looking exhausted. When he went to him to check on him, he told him that he was fine and that he had just been attacked by a poisonous monster. Negan began to worry about him, while Shadow decided to take the opportunity to implement his plan and suggested that Negan get a certain medicinal herb to cure him. Negan searched in books about the herb and where it grows, and when he found it, he brought it, put it in tea, and then offered it to his father. And as soon as he took the first sip, he liked it and felt better. Then he approached Negan and told him not to lose his good heart. After that, his father's illness ended up getting worse than expected. So he made the herbal drink for him every day in the hope that he would get better soon, but he eventually died, and Negan was heartbroken and cried for him constantly. He then told Shadow about the enormous pressure he was feeling from the responsibility of ruling the village, and that he would have to protect everyone. And Shadow told him that he would stay by his side and make up for what he lacked and tell him what he had to do. Negan was grateful to have Shadow by his side, while Shadow was happy that he was gradually gaining control over him. In the meantime, Shadow confronted him with the fact that he had caused his father's death, which left Negan in a state of shock. On the other hand, Ein tried to approach him and communicate with him, but to no avail, as there seems to be a barrier between them, while Shadow continues to psychologically exhaust him by telling him that what he gave his father was not a medicinal herb, but a poisonous plant, and that he manipulated the contents of the books to convince him that it was a medicinal herb. Negan broke down when he realized that he had been deceived by his only friend and was the cause of his father's death. Then Shadow told him that he was the devil himself, not Ein, and that he was trying to control his father and establish a trade route between humans and demons. But when he failed to do so, he had no choice but to control his only son, who seemed to be a great pawn. He then went on to say that thanks to him, he was able to send many humans to the demon world, and began to mock the fact that he and his father were pathetic, that they had something in common even though they had no real blood relation, and shocked him with the fact that he was never fit to be a leader with his weak body. When Negan completely collapsed, Shadow succeeded in penetrating his body until they became one person and took complete control of him, and Ein was surprised to see a different Negan in front of him. So Shadow introduced himself to him and told him that he was the noble seduction demon who finally took control of the village ruler. Ursula tells him that Shadow used camouflage to mislead them, and when Ein wonders what happened to Negan, Shadow tells him that he managed to take over his weak body after manipulating his emotions until they became one. He then blames Ein for what happened to Negan, telling him that he was doing well by deceiving him, weakening the village's defense, and sending many humans to the demon world until he showed up and ruined his entire plan, leaving him with no choice but to do it himself. He then added that he's not a macho like Falco, but he knows the weaknesses of humans and used his strength to attack him, telling him that if he tries to get rid of him, Negan will die with him. So Ein thought of locking him inside the protective barrier. Shadow scoffs at the idea that he thinks he can't break through the barrier. Ein is then surprised that he uses anti-spiritual magic after breaking a large part of the barrier, and Shadow tells him that his abilities won't work against him. He decides to use so much of his magical energy that Shadow cannot cancel his attack, but soon Shadow summons a group of monsters to attack the villagers, so he rushes towards them and eliminates them. Then he surrounds the perimeter of the village with a protective barrier and tells everyone to hide. Shadow told him that he would keep summoning monsters as long as he was alive. He then broke down the barrier he had set up, and the monsters started attacking the villagers again. So Ein created multiple versions of himself to take care of the monsters. Distracted by the sight of a monster holding a villager in its grip, Shadow took the opportunity to deliver a thunderous punch to the monster, and then continued to strike against it non-stop, while Ein thought he was in trouble for not being able to boost his techniques properly. Ursula tells him that nothing will change if he stays on the defensive while he thinks of a way to attack Shadow without hurting Negan, then finds Shadow underestimating him and tells him that the only way to stop him is to eliminate the owner of the body that serves as his vessel. But he trusts that he will not be able to do it because of his daydreams about saving everyone and protecting the village. He then tries to convince Ein to get rid of Negan in order to protect others, but he refuses refuses to follow the strategy of sacrificing one person for hundreds, and tries to scream so that Negan can hear his voice. But Shadow tells him that his heart has already been sealed and no one can reach him. As he continued to attack Ian, he was surprised that he was still standing despite his injuries, and Ian kept approaching Shadow until he grabbed his shirt and told him that he wanted to help Negan and everyone else, and then hit him with a crushing headbutt that forced him to fall. Meanwhile, Negan was sitting alone in his depths and wishing for a miracle to make him disappear completely after realizing that he had caused harm to many people around him. Then he heard Ian's voice calling him from afar, but he no longer wanted to talk or continue living again. Ian told him that he recognized the sincerity of his feelings and his desire to protect his people, and asked him to think about it clearly and not to give up. Negan remembered that the reason he wanted to protect everyone was because he wanted to be like his father. Then he remembered how his father was loved and surrounded by people all the time to put a smile on their faces, and that he wanted to do the same for them. Then he remembered his father's last words to him and started crying helplessly. In the meantime, the villagers were being attacked by monsters until the farmer appeared and managed to get rid of one of them, and told everyone to target the eyes of the monsters when attacking them, and realized that someone was controlling Negan and they should help him even though he had already caused them a lot of trouble. So everyone agreed and decided to help him break free from Shadow's control. Negan, on the other hand, was drowning in his negative thoughts that Shadow had succeeded in deceiving him and making him believe and see what suited his interests. Then he decided to rise again and face the hard truth and fulfill his role as the village's ruler. Shadow felt that something was wrong with him, so he pulled away from Ian and told him that he was hurting both of them with what he was trying to do now. He then used his power to make one last attack, but he was shocked that his body was not moving as he wanted it to, and realized that Negan was trying to fight back inside of him. His body ends up splitting in half, with Negan taking the other half and expressing his gratitude for Ian's attempt to help him before stabbing himself and choosing to sacrifice himself in order to save everyone from Shadow's evil. Shadow was furious with this decision, so Negan told him that he knew it was not an illusion, but he played stupid because he considered him his friend, and that he betrayed him and took advantage of his weakness. And after everything he did, he still considers him his friend because he saved him at a time when he needed someone to stand by him. Shadow was surprised that Negan still loved him and considered the time they spent together to be real. Then he told him that he was just a pawn that he managed to control and use as he wished, and that his weakness was what stripped him of everything and allowed him to control him. He then decided to escape out of his body to die alone, and told him that he wouldn't pretend to be his friend anymore. Negan ended up dead, while Shadow managed to escape and decided to retreat and reassess the situation from afar before making a new plan. On his way, he came across Mia and thought she would be a good candidate for his new victim. When he went towards her to control her, he ended up dead after Ian hit him with his sword from a distance, and then turned towards Negan and used Yuri's abilities to heal him and begged him not to surrender. Negan's desire to die was greater than Yuri's treatment, and he was isolated from everyone inside himself until he saw a faint light, suddenly illuminating his path and showing his father's hand reaching out to him, and when he grabbed it, he was able to return to life again after Yuri and Ian treated his injuries. Negan was surprised that he came back to life again and quickly became angry that they had saved him and told them that sacrificing his life was the only way to atone for his mistakes. But Ian told him that he did not want to follow the theory of sacrificing one for the sake of all. To Negan's surprise, the villagers joined them and tell him that they wouldn't have been better off if they had let him die here, that death won't atone for his mistakes or bring others back to life, and that he will atone for his mistakes by fixing what he has messed up himself. Negan realized that he had been narrow-minded in thinking that death would give him absolution and he would be able to see his father again. He began to cry as he knelt before his people and thanked them for giving a wretch like him another chance to continue living. Meanwhile, Yuri's strength waned in Ian, realizing that she had reached her limit, held her in his arms, thinking that if he had met Shadow earlier, he would have ended up like Negan, and wondering if weakness was such a bad thing. Ian decided to make the demons pay for their exploitation and control of the weak, and the rest of the spirits joined him to check on their sister. Meanwhile, Shadow somehow snuck out of his demonic body to try to escape, but unfortunately, Pina caught him and trapped him inside her barrier. Then Ian approached him and wanted to ask him why his kind was was after him. Shadow refused to tell him at first, but when he saw that Ein would not hesitate to take his life, he decided to make a deal with him to tell him everything he knows in exchange for his freedom. Ein agreed to his offer, and then Shadow told him that he had been ordered by the Demon King to eliminate him. And before Shadow could finish his sentence, he ended up dead after exploding inside the barrier. And Ursula realized that someone had put a spell on him that would kill him if he revealed sensitive information. In the evening, Ein made sure that the situation in the village had stabilized after the death of the demon, and they all expressed their gratitude for his help, while Mia felt sad that he was going away, so he promised her that he would come again to see her. Negan joined in to thank him for everything he had done for him and the village, and then went to ask him one last favor: to provide enough support to allow the village to stop the monsters from invading, and everyone agreed. The next day, Ein was shocked by the king's decision to appoint him as the leader of the village of Rishik at the request of Negan, who surrendered himself to the authorities out of a desire to atone for his mistakes and help his people. And although there are many objections to giving someone like him this position, the king believes that he deserves it after the great achievements he has made since he became an adventurer. Ein couldn't refuse and felt like everything was happening without warning. Then he found Jasper telling him that he would take over the chores of the nobles while he used his new position to get information about the secret labyrinths and build new relationships. Ein thinks he's gotten more than he bargained for after becoming a noble and a village leader, and decides to accept the position of Rishik's leader, and the king tells him that he's taking the first steps to be recognized as a hero. In the demon world, the news of Shadow's death at the hands of a human spread with lightning speed, and the demons began to doubt the power of the nobles and that they might not deserve the status they were given in the first place. While people were talking about it, one of them ended up dead after Duchess Ioana, the highest-ranking demon noble, decapitated him and told them that she hated weak, arrogant people like them, and then decided to use the other one as her puppet for transportation. Echidna was watching Ein through her crystal and realized that she would be in trouble if she couldn't defeat him. Ioana joined her and noticed that she was paying too much attention to him. She told her that he had special eyes and that he wouldn't have been able to defeat Shadow and Falco if he was just a human. Ioana felt he was interesting and wanted to test his strength in a duel, but Echidna decided to task her with bringing one of the spirits of the world tree to her, and while she finds one, she will be able to meet Ein face to face as he aims to find them. On the other side, Alice entered Ein's room and told him she had something to talk to him about. Her sisters thought she was going to confess her love to him, but she told them there was something serious about the sisters that she wanted to discuss. She then added that she had been using her ability to search for world trees for a while and somehow managed to find one. And when they were excited to go to where the tree was, they were surprised to hear a strange, unknown voice join in the conversation. Ein was shocked to see a sexy woman lying on his bed, admiring the spirit's ability to find them and telling him it was their older sister Kirsch. Ein couldn't believe that the spirit had come to him on its own and introduced himself to her. Kirsch then tells him that a demon is targeting one of the world's trees, and they will all need his help as the enemy is stronger than expected. Ein thinks it's her tree and decides to go where it is, but Alice tells him that it's their sister May's tree. Then she added that her tree is in the Oedipus forest and discovered that the entire area is a big secret labyrinth. He thought that her guardian would do her best to hold off the threats until they arrived, but they told him that May's guardian died a long time ago defending her against the invaders. Kirsch said that she ended up taking on the additional task of being her younger sister's guardian, as she has the ability to leave her tree whenever she wants due to her superior strength, and Ein realized that she had been protecting May until now. She tells him that her body in front of him is just a copy, as she is actually with May to guard her, but she may not last long. Alice asks her if she can't defeat the demon herself, and she replies that she can, but she fights hard enough, but in return she will destroy May's tree and the entire Rishik region in the process, which is why Ein is surprised by the fact that she is so strong. Ein is surprised by the fact that she's wearing a mask to seal the power of her evil eye, and worried that she'll have trouble defeating the succubus despite her overwhelming power. He decides to help May and Kirsch and take on the succubus himself. After that, Ein reached the Maid tree in the forest and sensed that it is charged with many curses, including the curse that makes anyone who enters it lose their way and never return. But he was able to go directly to the Maid tree by combining his ability with Alice's ability, so he decided to use his speed. Ursula tells him that the monsters in this forest are not stupid and will avoid fighting him directly because they realize how strong he is. So he decides to use his maximum speed to get to the tree since no one will get in his way. Suddenly, he senses something coming his way and finds an army of flies flying towards him, controlled by a demoness named Hornet. Just as one of the forest monsters is about to intervene and attack Ein from behind, she orders her flies to finish him off so that she can enjoy Ein as her prey alone, that she swung her flies at him, and as he stood still, he disappeared in a flash. Before she knew it, she was stabbed by Ein's sword after he surprised her from behind and told her that he would never spare the demons. But instead of dying, a huge amount of flies came out of her and became one of the flies flying over the forest due to her superpower. However, Ein didn't care about her ability and decided to exterminate all the insects flying above him. He then used his super ability to attack at a wide range, and his magical strikes began to rain down on the army of flies. Hornet realized that she would suffer a crushing defeat at this rate and opted to retreat in order to regroup. Then she was surprised to see a portal opening near her, so she decided to use it to return to her world. But she was surprised to see Ioana inside, so she felt confused and explained to her the reason for her escape, that Ein is stronger than she expected. And before she could finish her sentence, Ioana decided with a single bullet that she was useless. After reaching the human world, she found Ein waiting for her and introduced herself to him, while Ein realized that she was the demon that Kirsch had talked about, and Ioana admired his ability to sense her magic even though she was using a magic barrier. She then told him that getting rid of people like him is usually the job of her inferiors, but she had come to kidnap one of the spirits of the world tree. He vowed not to forgive her for targeting spirits, and she was surprised when he appeared behind her out of nowhere and started attacking her. Ein kept kicking her until she couldn't get up, but she was enjoying the pain for a long time, and then she used her weapons to fire a barrage of magical bullets at him. But Ein was able to block and deflect them with a single blow, and Ioana knew something was wrong because she couldn't dodge the attacks she normally dodged, and her abilities weren't working against him. And before she knew it, she ended up falling to the ground after Ein decapitated her. He then approached her and told her that he had used the attrition ability every time he struck her, which made her weaker than the beasts of the forest. She refused to believe that an elite noble like her could be beaten so badly by a human, and summoned the demon gate back to her world and vowed to make sure he died next time. Ein didn't want to let her escape, but Ursula told him to prioritize making sure Kirsch and May were safe, so he continued toward the tree as instructed by Alice, and when he arrived, he was surprised to find himself standing in front of a tree cocoon. Then Alice told him that he would find the sisters waiting for him, and soon the cocoon opened in front of them, and they went inside together, and Ein was surprised that inside the tree is like a village, and Kirsch welcomed them. And when he asked her about May, he found her taking a nap in her own bed, and when he approached her, he found that she is just a little girl. He didn't want to wake her up, but he ended up running over a tree branch underneath him and causing her to wake up. And when May saw him, she started screaming non-stop, thinking that he was a thief or a villain who came to get rid of her, and Ein had no choice but to scream as well. Ein felt he was in trouble when May started crying and tried to convince her that he wasn't an enemy, but instead of showing a pleasant facial expression, he looked more frightened, which made her cry even more, and she only stopped when Yuri intervened. She jumped into her arms with joy and then joined the others to welcome them, feeling awkward before telling them that she had made flower crowns when she knew they were coming, but didn't finish them all because she fell asleep while making them. Yuri takes the bundle of roses in her hand and puts them in her hair, promising that they will work together to make flower crowns later, and May is happy that she shares the same interests. When she noticed Ein's presence, she was worried, thinking that he was the one who kept shooting outside, but Yuri told her that he was the one who expelled the scary enemy and was a good person, so she apologized to him for her rudeness. Then she asked him to let her sit on his lap and pat her on the head like a big brother. As Ein played with her, he got overly excited and used his jumping ability to jump a very high distance, and her sisters expected her to go into a week-long crying fit from that recklessness. But when they returned to Earth again, they were surprised that she was enjoying jumping so high and told him that she had put him on her list of people she liked, and the sisters were relieved that she didn't throw a tantrum. When Ein asked Kirsch, she told him that she would respect his wishes and wouldn't mind accompanying him, and decided to take care of the place in their absence. He was surprised that she had no intention of accompanying them, and when she told him that she was charged with protecting the world tree here, he told her that he wanted to respect her wishes as he did with May, and asked her what she wanted to do, not what she had to do. Kirsch was surprised by his reaction, and that he was able to know what was going on inside her. Then Ein told her that he would help protect the place and put up a barrier and leave a copy of it in case anything happened. Then Kirsch decided to give him her and May's nucleus so that they could accompany him on his journey. After the sisters came together, Ein felt proud that he was able to fulfill the promise he made to Yuri. Ursula told him that there were still 4 more sisters left and put her trust in him to find them soon. Ein told her that he had always hated himself and felt worthless and had negative thoughts all the time, but since he met Yuri and her sisters, he felt strong and had warm feelings in his heart, which made him able to accept the person he is now. He then expressed his desire to continue to protect them and feel proud of himself. himself. Ursula remembered when she first saw him and how he lacked everything and was now a different person who used his strength for good, and without realizing it, she started crying. But she quickly wiped her tears before Ein could see them. After she helped him keep the two cores in his eyes, his level increased and he was able to assess the aura of others. Then Kirsch told him that her eye ability allows her to cancel anything that enters her field of vision, which he gained after he got the core, and advised him not to use it too much because it consumes a huge amount of energy and is difficult to control it. Ursula then told him that his ability to assess aura would enhance his physical strength and that he would be a match for the demons of the higher ranks, and that this is why Ilona did not take his fight seriously. On the other hand, Echidna met with the Herzog nobles to discuss the plan to eliminate Ein, as he has become a threat to the demonic realm. After that, Ein went to the former Negan mansion with the spirits and told them that they will live here together from now on. He then decided to start cleaning and organizing it to make it a livable home, but his request was met with different reactions among them, which caused chaos inside the mansion. He distributed the tasks to them and told them to finish cleaning before Jasper arrived with their luggage. When he went to clean the library with Alice, he apologized to her for not having Akahane with them and promised her that he would do his best to get them together someday. Alice realized that she was completely alone with Ein and decided to take the opportunity to share her feelings with him, but she was shocked when she heard him say that he reciprocated her feelings and thought he meant that he loved her and could not contain herself and hide her happiness, while Ein was surprised by the aura that surrounded the place, as he meant that he shared her love of books. On the other side, Kuroheim enters to check on Pina, and when she finds that she is using illusion magic to deceive her that she has finished cleaning, she becomes furious and attacks her duplicate, who trembles in terror and tries to justify it by saying that she was taking a break. Meanwhile, Yuri and Ursula were in charge of cleaning the bathroom, and suddenly Yuri slipped and Ursula rushed towards her to protect her, but ended up hitting her head on the wall, and Yuri told her that she should stop being so overprotective. She then expresses that she wants to try things she couldn't do before, that she's enjoying everything she's experienced with Ein so far, and that she's discovered many aspects of her personality thanks to him, and Ursula realizes that she'll be fine as long as she's with him. After a while, Ein finished cleaning up and wanted to go check on the others, but was surprised to see Yuri wearing an elegant dress and telling him that the sisters had decided to throw a welcome party for Kirsch. He admires the way she looks in it and tells her that it suits her very well. She is delighted and drags him to the dining room, where he finds all the girls ready to celebrate, and Yuri tells him that this party is also a token of thanks from the spirits for all he does for them. Ein was shocked to see everyone all dressed up and felt like he was living the most luxurious life in the world. Then Pina gave him a new suit so he could look elegant with them. When he put it on, they told him he looked like a prince, and then they decided to have fun by dancing with him, and everyone was very happy. In the evening, Yuri expresses her gratitude to Ein for being able to meet her sisters again thanks to him. He promises to do his best to find the rest of them, and when she wishes that they could continue to live happily like this, he tells her that this will continue because with her and her sisters, every day is better than the last, which makes him very happy, and Yuri feels happy that he feels the same way.